months old, so she's just a puppy. Hey puppy, and she's never done a retrieve before. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to sit, ask her to go into the position that we want her to end up giving the item back to us in. Good girl. We're then going to present the item, and she's going to get a click and a treat every time she touches it with her nose. And we're going to do this for about 8 treats. So what I want is I want her just to touch any part of the bar along the bottom of the dumbbell. Good girl. So she has to just touch the item a couple of times. So as soon as she moves out of that sit position, what I'm going to do is I'm going to withdraw the item. So she's telling me that she's not ready to play the game. The access into the game is sitting. So as soon as she sits, I then release the item for her again. So she can earn treats again. Good girl. If she struggles, I'll ask her for it. Poppy, sit. Yes, good girl. Make sure your dog's always got ways to say no. So when we're practicing this, if the dog takes the choice not to go into the sit or to move out of the sit, then just move the item away so that the dog's no longer playing the game and wait for them to come back and go in the sit before you start playing again. Keep getting your dog to target the item until they start opening their mouth onto it. Then you can just click them when they open their mouth onto the item. Wait for a really nice specific bite. Good girl. So a nice hard bite, and then we're going to start just releasing the item for a microsecond. So the weight of the item is on the dog just for a second. So she can hear my neighbour, which is fine. Good girl. So all I'm doing there, I'm not even taking my hand off the item yet. All I'm doing is I'm just releasing the weight of the item for sit. A microsecond. Good girl. Good girl. You'll see when the click happens as soon as my hand puts pressure on the item to come out. So we're rewarding the dog for releasing the item, not for holding on to it. And we're not clicking after the dog has released it. We're clicking sit. Good girl. So that was great. You see how we got my hand right off the item there? So as soon as we have that action where the dog is in the right position and they're gripping hold of it for a second, then we can bring in the verbal cue. So the verbal cue wants to be whatever you want to say to your dog when you want them to go and get something. So for my dogs, I use a go hold cue. Some people like a fetch cue, the traditional one. Other people have bring it or all kinds of different stuff. But for Poppy, we're going to use a hold. Ready? Sit. Good girl. Poppy, hold. So you want to try to get that item before it falls to the floor, because we don't want to encourage the dog to spit the item out. If she was an older dog, or if she was a dog who had been doing this for slightly longer, then I might not reward it when it drops to the floor. But we want to keep her motivation really high here, because she's only just learning and she's a baby. Sit. Hold. Good girl. It's nice. You're a good girl. Ready, Poppy? Hold. Good girl. That's nice. Ready, Poppy? Hold. Good girlie. That's a good girl. Yummy, yummy. That bit had cheese all over my hand. Ready, Pops? Hold. Good girl. So as I said before, you'll notice that the clicker happens when my hand comes and grabs the item. Oh, thanks. You're not going to sit, are you? Sit. Poppy, hold. So that's when the clicker happens. So I'm saying to her, that's brilliant because you're releasing it. So hold really means that the item's going to go in your mouth and you're going to release it when my hand comes towards it. And then I'm going to give you something delicious for letting go of that item. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring up my dog Ella, who I've been doing a bit more of this training with, and we'll talk a bit about adding distance so that the dogs are going and bringing something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding a little bit of distance to this. Ella, sit. Go hold. Good girl. So you'll see how she gets up off the sit to come and get the dummy. She then takes the dummy but goes back into the sit in order for me to take it off her. If she's playing retrieve games with anyone, it's much tidier, and it's also really handy for getting her to pick up other things. Ella, go hold.